According to the Hebrew Bible, Bathsheba, more commonly known by the anglicized name Bathsheba, was the wife of Uriah the Hittite and later of David, king of the United Kingdom of Israel and Judah. She is most known for the Bible story in which she was summoned by King David, who had seen her bathing and lusted after her. Bathsheba was a daughter of Eliam, one of David's 30. Eliam was the son of Ahitophel, one of David's chief advisers. Ahitophel was from Gilo, a city of Judah, and thus Bathsheba was from David's own tribe and the granddaughter of one of David's closest advisers. She was the mother of Solomon, who succeeded David as king, making her the queen mother. Biblical narrative. The meaning of the Hebrew form of the name of Bathsheba is daughter of the oath, bat, meaning daughter. The second part of the name appears in 1 Chronicles chapter 3 verse 5 as Shua. Bathsheba was the daughter of Eliam. Her father is identified by some scholars with Eliam mentioned in 2 Samuel chapter 23 verse 34 as the son of Ahithophel, who is described as the Gilonite. Bathsheba was the wife of Uriah the Hittite, and afterward of David, by whom she gave birth to Solomon, who succeeded David as king. The story of David's seduction of Bathsheba, told in 2 Samuel chapter 11, is omitted in Chronicles. The story is told that David, while walking on the roof of his palace, saw Bathsheba, who was then the wife of Uriah, having a bath. He immediately desired her and later made her pregnant. In an effort to conceal his sin, and save Bathsheba from punishment for adultery, David summoned Uriah from the army in the hope that Uriah would reconsummate his marriage and think that the child was his. Uriah was unwilling to violate the ancient kingdom rule applying to warriors in active service. Rather than go home to his own bed, he preferred to remain with the palace troops. After repeated efforts to convince Uriah to have sex with Bathsheba, the king gave the order to his general, Joab, that Uriah should be placed in the front lines of the battle, where it was the most dangerous, and left to the hands of the enemy. David had Uriah himself carry the message that ordered his death. After Uriah was dead, David made the now widowed Bathsheba his wife. David's action was displeasing to the Lord, who accordingly sent Nathan the prophet to reprove the king. After relating the parable of the rich man who took away the one little ewe lamb of his poor neighbor, and exciting the king's anger against the unrighteous act, the prophet applied the case directly to David's action with regard to Bathsheba. The king at once confessed his sin and expressed sincere repentance. Bathsheba's child by David was struck with a severe illness and died a few days after birth, which the king accepted as his punishment. Nathan also noted that David's house would be punished in revenge of this murder. This came to pass years later when one of David's much-loved sons, Absalom, led an insurrection that plunged the kingdom into civil war. Moreover, to manifest his claim to be the new king, Absalom had sexual intercourse in public with 10 of his father's concubines, which could be considered a direct, tenfold divine retribution for David's taking the woman of another man. In David's old age, Bathsheba secured the succession to the throne of her son Solomon, according to David's earlier promise, instead of David's eldest surviving son Adoniah. Some commentators have written that Bathsheba may have written at least part of Proverbs chapter 31 as suggested by the postulated connections between King Lemuel aka King Solomon. The story of David's adultery sets up the context for the penitential Psalm chapter 51, also known as Miserere. In rabbinical literature, Bathsheba was the granddaughter of Ahithophel, David's famous counselor. The Haggadah states that Ahithophel was misled by his knowledge of astrology into believing himself destined to become king of Israel. He therefore induced Absalom to commit an unpardonable crime, which sooner or later would have brought with it, according to Jewish law, the penalty of death, the motive for this advice being to remove Absalom, and thus to make a way for himself to the throne. His astrological information had been, however, misunderstood by him, for in reality it only predicted that his granddaughter, Bathsheba, the daughter of his son Eliam, would become queen. The Midrash portrays the influence of Satan bringing about the sinful relation of David and Bathsheba as follows. Bathsheba was bathing, perhaps behind a screen of wickerwork. Satan is depicted as coming in the disguise of a bird. David, shooting at the bird, strikes the screen, splitting it. Thus Bathsheba is revealed in her beauty to David. Christianity. In Matthew chapter 1 verse 6, Bathsheba is indirectly mentioned as an ancestor of Jesus. Islam. In Islam, David is considered to be a prophet, and some Islamic tradition views the Bible story as incompatible with the principle of infallibility of the prophets. A hadith quoted in Tafsir al-Kabir and Majma' al-Bayan expresses that Ali bin Abi Talib said, "Whoever says that David has married Uriah's wife as the legends narrate, I will punish him twice, one for Qazf and the other for desecrating the prophethood." Another hadith narrated from Shia scholars states that Ali al-Ridda, during the discussions with the scholars of other religions about prophets' infallibility, asked one of them, "What do you say about David?" He said, "David was praying, when a beautiful bird appeared in front of him, and David left his prayer and went after the bird. While David was walking on the roof of his palace, he saw Bathsheba having a bath. So David placed her husband in the front lines of the battlefield, in order to get killed, so that he could marry Bathsheba." Ali al-Ridda got upset and said, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un." You assign sluggishness in prayer to the prophet of God, and then accuse him of unchastity, and then charge him with the murder of an innocent man. He asked, "So what is the story of Uriah?" And Ali al-Ridda said, "At that times, the women whom their husbands passed away or got killed in the war, would never get married again. David was the first person to break this tradition. So after Uriah was incidentally killed in the war, David married his wife, but people could hardly accept this anomalous marriage-critical view." Bathsheba's name, which perhaps means daughter of the oath, is in I Chronicles chapter 3 verse 5 spelled Bathshua. The form becomes merely a variant reading of Bathsheba. The passages in which Bathsheba is mentioned are 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 2-12 to 24, and I Kings chapter 1, 2, both of which are parts of the oldest stratum of the books of Samuel and Kings. It is part of that court history of David, written by someone who stood very near the events and who did not idealize David. The material contained in it is of higher historical value than that in the later strata of these books. Buddha would connect it with the J document of the Hexateuch. The only interpolations in it which concern the story of Bathsheba are some verses in the early part of the 12th chapter, that heighten the moral tone of Nathan's rebuke of David. According to Karl Buddha, the interpolated portion is 12, 7, 8, and 10 to 12. According to Friedrich Schwillian H. P. Smith, the whole of 12, 1 to 15a is an interpolation, and 12, 15b should be joined directly to 11, 27. This does not directly affect the narrative concerning Bathsheba herself. Chronicles omits all reference to the way in which Bathsheba became David's wife, and gives only the names of her children, Shimei, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon. The father of Bathsheba was Eliam, as this was also the name of a son of Ahithophel, one of David's heroes. It has been conjectured that Bathsheba was a granddaughter of Ahithophel and that the latter's desertion of David at the time of Absalom's rebellion was in revenge for David's conduct toward Bathsheba. The faulting of David is made clear in the text from the very beginning. It was springtime, the time when kings go forth to war, but David remained in Jerusalem. If David had been out at war, the incident would not have taken place. After the incident, of course, there is Nathan's rebuke in 2 Samuel chapter 12 and the events that followed. The Bathsheba incident, then, begins a shift in the book's perspective. David is largely at the mercy of events rather than directing them. He is no longer able to control his family and ends up being overthrown by Absalom. In 2 Samuel chapter 13 there is another way the text blames David. In the story of David's son Amnon's rape of his sister Tamar, the placement of the rape so soon after the incident of Bathsheba seems to draw a parallel between sexual misconduct of father and son. Bibliography. Kristen de Troyer, Looking at Bathsheba with Text-Critical Eyes, in Nora David, Armin Longy, Kristen de Troyer and Shani Zorf. The Hebrew Bible in Light of the Dead Sea Scrolls, 84-94.